big week in politics. Next. And welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. It was a big week in politics, locally and nationally. We'll talk about the winners and losers with University of Hartford Associate Professor Bilal Sakou and attorney Corey Brinson, a former Republican Hartford councilman. We'll also talk about Republican Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney's pick to be his vice presidential candidate. Then we'll wrap things up with a communication coaching and training specialist, Roberta Prescott. She'll talk about what the Olympics taught us about establishing mental toughness and how you can establish mental toughness. But first, we're talking politics, the essence of mental toughness, right? Corey Brinson, attorney, former Republican city councilman, Bilal Sakou, associate professor at UHAR. So kind of an interesting week in Connecticut politics, the primaries. You had the specter of the federal government investigating House Speaker Chris Donovan's activities. He lost in an upset. Miss Esty took him out. Your thoughts on her rise now?
I thought it was a fascinating primary, and I'm sure we'll talk about former State Senator Ernie Newton as well.
Yes, we'll get to him, yep.
And, but concerning Chris Donovan, I mean, I think what it says is that voters were paying attention. I think he was, whether he did anything wrong or not, he was, his campaign basically fell apart, and voters rejected that. And so Elizabeth Esty has the benefit of that. She's going to have a strong Republican opponent, Andrew Rohrabach, in the 5th District, and it should be an exciting one.
Now, as far as the criminal aspect with Chris Donovan, is this over now? Your speculation? Do you think the feds are saying, okay, we won it, or do you think this continues?
I mean, my sense, if there was anything there, they probably would have gone after the speaker by now. You know, in all candor, I've known Chris Donovan for probably about 12 years, and he's taught at the University of Hartford, and I consider him a friend. And so I was pretty shocked when, you know, I heard about, you know, these allegations in terms of what happened with his campaign. And it was quite devastating. I mean, you know, Chris in many ways had been sort of the heir apparent to whoever, you know, to Chris Murphy when Dodd decided to step down. I mean, people have been talking about that for years. And so this is, I think, quite a big blow to many progressives in the state who have been working with Chris since he's been in the legislature. And, you know, at least for his campaign, a very unfortunate, you know, opportunity sort of slip away, you know, from him. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for Esty. I think, you know, now the 5th really is in play. I think, you know, Chris probably, you know, without these troubles would have been someone who probably would have been the front runner and expected to win this seat. But I think now you're going to see a lot of action from the outside, a lot of money coming into the state trying to influence that outcome, and that's potentially a seat.
It's a vulnerable seat right now.
It's a very vulnerable seat that Republicans can pick up.
Now, Donovan, his wounds were self-inflicted. Attorney Corey Brinson, if he came to you now, you saw the storyline here, a bunch of his underlings who are arrested and being accused of being part of a sort of a pay type of scheme. If they came to you for advice, what would trouble you about this whole situation? They said, Corey, tell us what we can do here. What troubled you about the series of events?
I think the most troubling thing is that the whole implication about pay-for-play politics, obviously, and Speaker Donovan should be concerned because when federal indictments are involved, you get points to not go to jail for cooperating on the sentencing guidelines. It's called a 5K and under Route 5K. And so Chris Donovan should be concerned that if he is involved, that somebody may inform the feds of that. But as for the people who were arrested, I mean, the most critical thing is that pay-for-play politics, taking money for, Connecticut has a long history of politicians taking money directly and indirectly for things, and judges come down hard on that. You see Eddie Perez, 3 years, Governor Rowland, a year. Judges come down hard on that. What do you suspect will happen? There are folks who say, how could the House Speaker not know what's going on with this campaign, with these people? What do you think will happen in the next few months? I agree that if they had something as of now, Speaker Donovan, they probably would have already taken action. I don't think they would have cared about the campaign at all. It's likely that the speaker maybe just essentially had a rule, go get the money, and how you guys do it, you know, I don't care, because he's busy campaigning and he's busy with his House duties. So it's very easy that the folks under him, and probably unfortunately the speaker's part, because it probably created the culture that allowed them to basically play fast and loose with the rules in terms of hiding who the actual donors are.
He can't win here, right? If indeed he is innocent, then he's guilty of not being a good manager with his staff. And if he is indeed guilty, then he did something very wrong.
And I think certainly that will be the accusation. I mean, I've talked to people who run campaigns, and particularly when you run a congressional campaign, he's Speaker of the House, he's running a congressional campaign, he's out meeting people, he's traveling around. I mean, it's pretty, you know, I think one can sense how you would not be sort of doing the day-to-day management of this, that something like this can happen. And again, it's very unfortunate someone from the outside came in to be his finance director. You know, there's still questions about, you know, at least in my mind and a lot of other folks, who was this guy, you know, that came in on the campaign. I think his campaign director becoming involved with that was really unfortunate, because that's someone who he's worked with for years and has been a friend for years. And to have seen him, you know, become involved, I think really is the most tragic part of this, I think, you know, as this sort of plays out, because that's someone that the Speaker has known for years and has been very close to.
Change gears. Linda McMahon bests Chris Shays in the seat now, going for Senate. She'll be matched up with Chris Murphy. Very interesting contest there. Your thoughts on McMahon? Second bite of the apple, different race here, but your thoughts on her emergence now?
I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Why?
She came out the day after the primaries and hit Chris Murphy hard, attacking his lack of attendance at the committee meetings, 80% lack of attendance rating, and that he's asking for a promotion and he's not doing the job that he's doing. I think the voters know Linda, and this election is about the economy, from the president all the way down. And Linda, you think Linda McMahon, you think business, you think a businesswoman, and so I think that's going to translate very well to independent voters that are going to decide this election.
That's the GOP perspective. How about the Democrats' perspective on this?
I don't know that I'll necessarily speak for the Democratic perspective, but I certainly think that this has the potential to be a really, really tight race. I think that Linda McMahon has a lot of money that she's prepared to spend in order to try to win. There are going to be a lot of folks with Citizens United who will kick in a lot of money into the state. I think this is, from a national perspective, this is viewed perhaps as one of those potential pickups for the Republicans that they could try to take control of the Senate with. And so from that standpoint, I think this will receive a lot of attention, this particular race. But it also means both sides will pour a lot of money from outside sources into this race. And I think once labor sort of focuses on this one, I think what you'll see is that this will be an opportunity for us to see a lot of mudslinging.
It's going to get very nasty, right? It's going to be very, very nasty. Absolutely. All right, folks, when we come back, we'll return with more of the Stan Simpson Show. We'll talk about the Republican candidate for vice president and how that may impact the upcoming presidential elections. Don't go away. You're watching the Stan Simpson Show. Catch us 24/7 at ctnow.com/Stan. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Don't go away.